Will the Herb Jones disrespect ever stop? Here's why the latest GM survey is oddly lacking in mentions of the Pelicans winning stopper. It's the Friday episode of Locked On Pelicans. Let's go.
You are Locked On Pelicans, your daily New Orleans Pelicans podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to another edition of Locked On Pelicans, the daily podcast covering your favorite team, the New Orleans Pelicans and NBA, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm your host, Pelicans Insider, credential member of the media, Jake Madison, at NOLA Jake on Twitter. Here with y'all on this Friday, and I am joined by Dylan Saunders from Pelicans Roundtable. You may also know him from the Saints Squad show over at Locked On Saints and Locked On. Dylan, what's going on, man?
Nothing much. Just got back from Pelicans practice. Where I am also a credentialed media member officially today. They gave me my
got two on the show here.
I mean, double trouble. But yeah, hopefully some of y'all might know me from Saints Squad Show. If you don't, imagine like Ross Jackson, but way cooler and more intelligent. And that's pretty much me. So
Ross Jackson doesn't have a mustache like that.
No, he doesn't. He's never been complimented by Jordan Poole.
Did Jordan Poole compliment the mustache?
Jordan Poole stopped me mid-question and complimented my mustache. So,
that's when you know you've made it here, right?
Yeah, and so expect me to be overly nice to Jordan Poole for the rest of my time in New Orleans.
We'll probably talk about him a little bit in the second segment because he's just a likable guy and just seems to be adding a lot of positive vibes to the atmosphere of the team. We're going to look at Jeremiah Fears and his growth in the third segment of today's show, too. We're going to, of course, start looking at just Herb Jones' disrespect, which keeps happening here. By the way, today's episode of Locked On Pelicans is brought to you by FanDuel. New customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you're going to get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. Head to FanDuel.com to get started. And of course, thank you for making Locked On Pelicans your first listen today and every day. We are here Monday through Friday, the #1 Pelicans podcast covering everything you want to know about this Pelicans team. So join us wherever you get your podcast, on YouTube as well. And you can watch us every weekday at 10:30 a.m. on the Gulf Coast Sports and Entertainment Network. All right, Dylan, let's dive into the NBA GM survey. I do find this useful every year. They get 49 questions ahead of the new season, and someone, it's not actually GMs that answer this, but someone from every team is responding to this, and they're not allowed to vote for their own team or players. And when you get into who's the best defender in the NBA, who's the best wing defender, interior defender, just most versatile defender, there is a shocking lack of mention for Herb Jones. This has been a theme this offseason, it felt like. In our Locked On Top 100, he was way lower than he shouldn't have been. Herb Jones wasn't even on ESPN's Top 100 players. What the heck, man?
Dude, it's crazy. Like I feel like it's impossible to watch the Pelicans, which I guess I'm already starting to see the issue is that not a lot of people watch the Pelicans probably around the league, it feels like. So they don't get to see the impact that Herb Jones has on the defensive side of the ball. It's almost incalculable. I mean, defensive stats in the NBA overall are lacking, but it is just incalculable how impactful and how good Herb Jones is on defense.
It's so strange to me that he gets such a lack of respect that like, Look at how often his name is in, I don't even want to call them like trade rumors, right? Because they're not actually trading him. They signed him to an extension. But when you go to other team sites and places, it's like, we should trade for Herb Jones. Here's how my favorite team can get an elite wing defender. Literally
or
everybody,
second-round picks or whatever it is.
Yeah. Everyone is trying to trade for Herb Jones, but no one wants to kind of give him the respect in all this. And look, I get some of the names. We're not going to call him the best defensive player. That is easily, in my opinion, Victor Wembanyama. And defensive player of the year tends to skew towards bigs because you get block shots. It's something, you mentioned the stats, right? Like that's a quantifiable thing. But on perimeter defender, like what are we doing? Dyson Daniels, you want to throw him in there? Sure. I don't really have a problem with that. Caruso, Amen Thompson, Lou Dort, Drew Holiday, Asur Thompson. Sure. You at least got to be mentioning Herb Jones in that, though.
Yeah. I mean, Dyson Daniels is an interesting one, obviously, because, was with the Pels, has a long history. He was above both Trey Murphy and Zion in the ESPN Top 100 that you mentioned earlier. It feels like Dyson is, crazy respected around the league. And I don't think he's a bad perimeter defender at all. But for him to be the number one and Herb to not even get a mention is crazy. It's crazy.
It's really weird, because Again, you mentioned that it's tough to quantify defense. One of the things we should probably listen to is elite offensive players saying like, this dude sucks to play against. How many times have we heard Luka Doncic say that? Someone that everyone would probably put as a top 5 NBA player right now. Paul George, depending on how you think about him, has said very similar things of like, it sucks to play against Herb Jones and I hate it. You've seen him shut down guys like Kawhi Leonard and all these just elite wings in the league. I know that the rallying cry is not on Herb, and that's been the case from his rookie year, but it feels like it should be forgot about Herb this season because look, he played 20 games this year. I would imagine that's a big part of it is just people haven't seen him since December. But what are we doing here?
Yeah. And I guess like it feels weird to say, but maybe some increased offensive tools or anything like that, just anything to get eyes on him could help raise his defensive caliber, like the conversation around it. Because I feel like it's crazy to a point. Like, don't mean to throw a stray at this guy, but like, why is Toumani Camara getting votes for the best?
I like him; he's good, but
yeah, he's good. But like, why is he getting votes and Herb Jones isn't? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think so. I think this, and we'll talk about this a little bit in the next segment too. It just feels like the Pelicans are a big afterthought to a lot of people this year, right? Like, look, whenever there are expectations, they tend to fall flat on their faces. So people have stopped putting expectations on this team. And playing only 20 games doesn't really do Herb Jones any favors last year. But we're like a season removed. That's it from him finishing 5th in Defensive Player of the Year. He was the first non-big on that list. It had been centers before him, essentially. All defensive first team here. I just struggle with it. And everyone's trying to trade for him. It makes like no sense to me when it comes to it here that like people have really forgotten about him. And, honestly, now that you're covering the team this season, you've been on the beat, you've gotten to interact with him a little bit more. He's probably, we're kind of up in arms about it. I don't think Herb Jones is up in arms about this at all. You're muted, Dylan, I think on your end there.
Oh my goodness. All right. Sorry. Loyal Saint Squad show listeners will appreciate that one. I think that more so than Herb feeling upset about it, I think probably like Trey Murphy. Is gonna.
And Trey's parents are probably pretty upset too.
Yeah, Herb lets I think that's kind of what it is. He lets his defense speak for itself. He's not too worried about the outside like accolades, but it feels like. It makes sense for a fan base and his teammates. We all want him to get that recognition because he deserves it. And it's only going to help him, get paid even more, even though there's a big thing about him not caring about money. Help him get paid even more down the road, It's a respect thing. And I think he has earned that respect both on and off the court. So we just, New Orleans feels like it should be reciprocated.
Yeah, it really does. And it is, I think you nailed it. It's a respect thing here. And even if this team isn't particularly good and their defense fell off a cliff last year, more due to injuries than anything else, not like Herb Jones was bad. He was injured, so your defense is going to be worse. Yeah, that's the reason why. It's not a talent thing here at all. It's just that. And Herb Jones definitely deserves more respect. I like your point of Trey Murphy. Like he's probably the one who's most upset about all of this. So coming up next, still kind of keeping with the GM survey here, a lot of lack of mentions from the Pelicans, but there was one question I want to look at in particular. We're going to break that down. That's coming up here next in today's episode of Locked On Pelicans. Today's episode of Locked On Pelicans is brought to you. I got to find the clip here to play it by PrizePicks. I love PrizePicks because it's basically just daily fantasy made easy. We make decisions every single day, but on PrizePicks, being right can actually get you paid. So don't miss the excitement of this football and basketball season with PrizePicks, where it's just good to be right. Playing PrizePicks is so much fun and so simple. You just pick more or less on player projections. You can do it with Josh Allen's passing yards, Saquon Barkley rushing for a touchdown, and then you're right in the game. And I love that you can make a lineup in under a minute. And PrizePicks just added stacks. So if you want to ride with a player, you can select their pass yards, rush yards, touchdowns, all in one lineup. If you know other people are winning money, you can follow those players and copy their lineups with one click. And a new injury reboot feature. If your player leaves early and doesn't return, it's not going to count against you. So download the PrizePicks app today and use code LOCKEDONNBA to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code LOCKEDONNBA for $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineups over at PrizePicks. It's good to be right. And thank you for making Locked On Pelicans your first listen today and every day. We are here Monday through Friday, the #1 Pelicans podcast, covering everything you want to know about this Pelicans team. So please subscribe wherever you get your podcast. Join over 12,000 subscribers on YouTube as well. For your second listen, make it the Locked On Saints Squad Show with Dylan Sanders here, Ross Jackson. You got Lance Moore on there too, right?
Yes,
Like,
we do.
Well, there's not much more you could want there. So Dylan Sanders hosting that. You're going to see his work all over the place for the Pelicans as well, which is why he is my guest today. All right, Dylan, let's keep talking a little bit about the GM survey here. And one of the questions that I always find kind of fascinating, right, is the question of which team's level of success this season is toughest to predict. And the Philadelphia 76ers ran away with this one, which I think is completely valid, right? Yes. And there's going to be a tie-in with the Pelicans to that. But the Pelicans were tied for second with a bunch of other teams. I think each other team received like 2 votes, and Philly got like 7 or 8 in this one here. People just don't know what to make of this team. I talked about it in my show yesterday, where you look at the Sporting News composite rankings of every starter, and the Pelicans grade out really well, puts them kind of 10th in the West, but everyone's kind of predicting them second to last in the West at 14th. There's just like stuff going on around the team, it feels like.
Yeah. And it what I think is a good sign is that I think the people inside the building, the players and coaches that we've talked to, they know what the expectation is. They don't really care. They inside the building feel like they have the talent to win 50 games this year or whatever it is. And of course, you look at the roster, they have, 2 to 3 players at every position. They're like, oh, these are real NBA players. They have the talent. It's just, the same question that has always been is health. And it's especially with this team, and the 76ers, that's why they won. You really have no idea what the team's going to look like in 2 months because of, just uncertainty. There are, I think it's unfair to place an expected injury on somebody, but you kind of have to go with the history and know that with this team, something always happens. So it's hard to give them the benefit of the doubt. But I feel like if this team does stay healthy or mostly healthy, the talent should be way more than a 14 seed.
Yeah, look, I don't think they're solidly a top 6 seed or anything like that in the West, in a brutally tough Western Conference. Let's be real about it here. But like, they should be in the mix for a play-in spot. That's 8 to 10, even 11, 12, to just kind of eliminate them from that already has seemed a little bit odd to me. There were 16 teams that had at least 4 players in the top 100, according to Sporting News ranking all 150 starters. Pelicans were one of those teams, right? That automatically kind of puts you in the top half of the league here. They had 4 guys in the top 100. So that's pretty good. A couple teams had 5 guys, but it's interesting, right? One of the things I think people look at as holding this team back, and I talked about it yesterday, was the center position. Is it going to be Kevon Looney? Is it going to be Yves Missi starting? Looney's fine, not an elite starter, but if he was starting, you're kind of ranking him closer to 150 than 100. Same thing for Missi here. What did you think about the center position play when they were in Australia? Because I was pretty impressed with what we saw from Missi, given that it's, knowing that it's not against NBA competition. But if they're able to get solid production there, like, to me, that's the biggest positional question mark that they have. And that elevates this team pretty significantly, I think.
Yeah, and what I think a lot of people are underselling is whenever it even isn't Missi and it is Looney, the existing 2-man game with him and Jordan Poole, they're like best friends off the court. They played a lot together, and they look solid whenever they're together. Like, you could see it in Australia. You're like, okay, these are guys that have played a lot of basketball together, but just they're in different uniforms now. And then whenever it is Missi, I think that he has been focused, nose to the grindstone on improving his rebounding. And I think that is the biggest thing that you can. I think you can see an improvement. And I think that that's going to be the biggest thing to improve. Because if you can get Missi to start rebounding at a high rate, and you have Zion, you have Jordan Poole, you have Trey Murphy, you don't need him to be a 12-point-a-night scorer on offense. I mean, you like it, those easy lobs or getting open in the paint, but I think just rebounding for him right now is the biggest thing you have to circle.
That's what the team needs. They were 27th in defensive rebounding percentage last year. When you look at Misi, he was grabbing 19.7% of defensive rebounds. That number, when it was Jonas Valanciunas down low, was closer to like 33.3%. Like he just hoovered up the glass here. Even someone like DeJounte Murray had a higher defensive rebounding rate than Yves Misi did. And this speaks to one of the challenges of building around a player like Zion Williamson, who's undersized for the power forward spot where you play him. Okay, so he's not a great defensive rebounder. He can improve in that area, but he's never going to be elite at that. Let's go ahead.
I was going to Willie Green today, when we asked him about Zion, what he's seen so far. The first thing he said, he was like, and don't worry, he was like, we are asking him, we are telling him he has to rebound more. He has to rebound better. And I think that's fair. You see the highlight plays, you see him in transition, him on offense, he looks great. But I think for him to make that next step as a 4, he is undersized, but he does have to rebound better.
Yeah, I mean, that's why there's an argument to be made that he should be playing the 3 versus the 4. And I've talked to Antonio Daniels about this a good bit. And I think Antonio Daniels agrees with that sentiment that, like, you know, if you have an undersized 4 and you're not getting defensive rebounding from it, you got to make that up elsewhere. And that's kind of tough to do. And that's what put the Pelicans in a ton of trouble last year, and even at times the years before that. You know, we'd love to see a small ball lineup with Zion at the 5 and 4 shooters around him, except that team's going to get murdered on the glass, and it's not going to matter because even if you force a miss, they're grabbing an offensive rebound for a putback, and that's an easy 2 points. So they need Zion to improve in that area. The other way you can make it work is if you have just an elite defensive rebounding center, a la Rudy Gobert, a la even a Jonas Valanciunas, who's not good defensively, but does a good job on the defensive glass. That's how you kind of balance some of that, I think. And they don't really have that guy. So it's going to be important that Zion improves in it, that Misi improves in it too. I even think that's an area that someone like Trey Murphy, who has tremendous size and still might even be growing, can improve in that area. Yeah.
And what we've heard a lot is that from not just Misi, but from other players around, is that having Looney in there, he's just such a smart rebounder. He knows where to go. He's doing more than just being where the ball is. He's there before it. They've all talked that is something that he has passed around the team, is how to rebound smarter, even if you aren't because he's an undersized 5. And,
he plays much bigger than he is. He's 6'9". Like he's undersized for the center spot, and like he rebounds much better than you would imagine for his size.
I did earlier this preseason, a couple weeks ago. I did 3 statistics that I believe the Pelicans cannot repeat this year. And one of them was 16.2 opponent second chance points per night. They averaged allowing 16 second chance points a night. That's the second worst in the league. And this whole rebounding thing, it starts with that. They have to be better.
Well, look, defensive rebounding is defense. It's terminating possessions, and that's a really important thing to do, I think. You mentioned Looney there. We talked a little bit about Jordan Poole and the vibes that he has and everything too. You know, it seems like, and you also said it, where they feel like they can win 50 plus games this year. There's a strong belief in this team. There seems to be a very good culture with this team that definitely comes across in the interviews and even what we see in practice too.
Absolutely. I think that has been one of the biggest things that I've noticed so far is everybody speaks super highly of each other. Everyone is really happy to be there. There's a lot of smiling. There's a lot of joking going on in practice, which is, it can be a good and a bad thing whenever, you're coming from a 20-win season, but it feels like more of the good, like, lighthearted. And then whenever they do play, they get into it. They are not afraid to go at each other, but then after the game, it's back to being good. And I think that one of the big underrated parts of this Australia trip was 2 20-hour plane trips all stuck together. And I think that from everything we've learned, we've talked to them, and they've said that played a big role in them getting closer as a team because they were just, locked in there kind of like sardines.
I mean, the vibes around the team at the end of last season were bad, like genuinely bad. You can feel it when you walk into the arena on game days around the practice facility. It does not feel like that. And there's something to be said for all of that. And hopefully, look, vibes don't win you games, but it's not going to hurt you in any capacity. And you still have to have a lot of that too here. So we'll find out. Coming up next, though, let's look at one of the rookies who spoke today, Jeremiah Fears. I want to break down what you've seen from him, what I've seen from him in these preseason games. I think he's going to be a very good player. That's coming up here next in today's episode of Locked On Pelicans. Today's episode of Locked On Pelicans is brought to you by FanDuel. The NFL season is here. Basketball is almost here, and FanDuel has an offer you don't want to miss. Right now, new customers can bet just $5 and get $300 in bonus bets if you win. All you got to do, pick a bet, put down $5, and if it hits, you're going to unlock $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. FanDuel has been with Locked On for a long time, and I don't think we've ever seen an offer as good as $300 in bonus bets here. And I love how FanDuel gives you so many different ways to play. You can build parlays for the bigger payout, try player props. Those are always fun. And even follow games live if you've missed kickoff or tip-off here. It just makes watching sports a little bit more exciting. I'm big on Tulane against ECU. Hopefully they've already won by the time that you are listening to this. So don't wait anymore. Visit FanDuel.com to download the FanDuel app today and get started. And if your first $5 bet wins, you're going to get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. Today's episode of Locked On Pelicans is also brought to you by Quo. One of the tools that makes a difference for business owners is Quo, formerly OpenPhone. It's the same great business phone system you've heard me talk about before. It's just got a new name. And here's why it matters. Every missed call is money left on the table. When every customer interaction counts, you need a phone system that keeps you connected 24/7. And that's why Quo is the #1 business phone system that streamlines customer communications. It works right through an app on your phone or computer, so you don't need to carry two phones. You don't need to worry about a landline. And I love how Quo, formerly known as OpenPhone, lets your team share one number and collaborate on calls, texts, like a shared inbox here, so no customer gets hanging. And their built-in AI agent is a game changer. It can answer after-hours calls, capture leads, and keep business moving forward even when you're off the clock. So see why over 90,000 businesses trust Quo, formerly OpenPhone. Get started free and get 20% off your first 6 months at quo.com/lockedonnba. That's QUO.com/lockedonnba. And if you've got an existing number with another service, Quo will port them over at no extra charge. Quo, no missed calls, no missed customers. And thank you for making Locked On Pelicans your first listen today and every day. We're here 5 days a week covering everything you want to know about this Pelicans team. Make Locked On Saints your second listen today. Ross Jackson breaking down everything black and gold. I'm actually going to maybe see him this weekend over at the Locked On Saints podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. All right, Dylan, we're a little short on time here, but I want to look at Jeremiah Fears. You know, not the best in terms of pure stats from the 2 games in Australia, but I like the process that he had. He still looks like he's going to be very good in literally living up to the Zero Fears name.
Yeah, Zion today described him as fearless. He's leading into the branding a little bit. But I think that it's preseason. It's one of the games, one of the only times where I think the field goals attempted number is going to matter more to me than the field goals made, because
That's fair.
Because what I see is a guy that he's a hooper. I think the shots are going to fall in time, but I think it's really important for a young guy to, not be able to hit shots, but go right back there and shoot another one. Go try again. It's not going to be perfect, but I like him not having, living up to that fearless name. He's going to go put up his shots, because he put up 25 shots in 2 games.
Yeah. I mean, it's important, right? You've got to have that like goldfish mentality, that like amnesia of if something happened before, don't let it rattle you. Just go out and play your kind of game. And especially in preseason and maybe even the start of the regular season, to me, it's more about process over results for Jeremiah Fears. Do the correct things and the results should follow. And that's a really important thing, especially for a rookie who's going to need to develop. We've even heard Willie Green, who isn't the most like rookie friendly coach, it seems like, be like willing to kind of go on this journey and growth with Jeremiah Fears too. And it's nice to see the Pelicans kind of have that like true commitment to him and developing him like that seems like the plan is.
Every time you talk to Willie Green, actually really anytime you talk to anybody in the Pelicans facility, their mind is blown that Jeremiah Fears is going to turn 19 in a couple of days. And that's what Jeremiah Fears said, that the message from Willie Green after he, didn't have an efficient night, he's like, listen, don't worry about it. You're 18. I couldn't do what you're doing at 18. Most humans on planet Earth couldn't do what you're doing at 18. Don't let it get in your head. You're doing great. You're on a great track. You just bounce back, come back. Don't let a bad night affect you. And it seems like it didn't, because he came back, still was a little aggressive on the second night. And I think he looked a lot more comfortable in that second game.
Well, and that's what you want. You want to see some growth like that, right? Like, and it's also good that, he struggled in that first game. The shot wasn't falling and the team was like, we still believe in you. Early on, you heard at media day, I think it was Joe Dumars said, at his media availability, that like these rookie seasons are going to be determined by the rookies, by the players, and it's not going to be predetermined by the front office or by the coaching staff, and that these guys will have an opportunity to earn their minutes. That's a really big thing. These players want to feel like they have a chance to go out and compete and earn these spots. Mm-hmm. I think you're kind of seeing it with Fears. The fact that like everyone raves about him too really also speaks a lot. It's not just Zion. It's also a guy like Jordan Poole too. Yeah.
I mean, and you look, he's been upset. He has been described as obsessed with the gym. And we talked today, their sleep schedule is all destroyed by this Australia trip, every single one. But Jeremiah Fears was back. He wakes up at 4 or 5 a.m. He was at the Pelicans facility at 5:30 in the morning.
I love it. He's obsessed with the gym. We're obsessed with podcasting, but that's where we're going to end it for this episode here of Locked On Pelicans. I appreciate my guest, Dylan Sanders, here. Go find him over at Pelicans Roundtable. You'll see him here pretty regularly on Locked On Pelicans as well. That's going to do it for this episode of Locked On Pelicans. As always, I'm your host, Jake Madison, at NOLA Jake on Twitter. This is the Locked On Pelicans podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Be back with y'all on Monday.